The Williamson County School Board is meeting in person at 1761 West Main Street, Franklin, Tennessee, but has limited capacity. As a result, Williamson County Schools is officially meeting electronically as it is necessary to protect public health, safety, and welfare in light of the coronavirus, pursuant to Executive Orders number 16 and 60, signed by Governor Bill Lee, and waiver of Williamson County School Board Policy 1.400. I'm Jason Golden, the Superintendent of Schools for Williamson County Schools, and I am chairing this meeting because it is our annual meeting to elect our school board chair. I will be chairing it until such time as the board elects a chair, and then at that time, we will step aside from my chair to the newly elected school board chair. With that, Ms. Glenn, if you would please record attendance.
Angela Durham. Dan Cash.
Here.
Elliot Mitchell.
Here.
Brad Fiskus.
Here.
Jennifer Apria. Here. Jay Galbraith.
Here.
Rick Wimberly.
Here.
Candy Emerson. Eric Welch.
Here.
Casey Hall.
Here.
And Nancy Garrett.
Here. Was I called?
You missed Sheila.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sheila Cleveland.
Here.
The voice from above.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Glenn. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and a moment of silence. If you would, please stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I do want to welcome Deputies Ron Hooper and Randall Purcell, and thank you all for being at the meeting with us this evening. The next item on the agenda is election of school board chairman. Wanted to let the board know of the process for this. First, we will accept nominations for board chair. Nominations do not require a second. I'll give you that opportunity to nominate. After the nominations are completed, I will ask if they're completed, and we will then close nominations. Next, we will vote on the individual who is first nominated. If that individual receives a majority, then that will end that particular agenda item, and then we will move to the next one. In the event that first nominee does not receive a majority, then a subsequent nominee would then have their name up for a vote. So with that, I ask, are there any nominations?
Yes.
And I see Mr. Wimberly's hand is up. Mr. Wimberly?
Thank you, sir. Before I say anything, would someone please send Ms. Durham the link? I just now received a text from her asking me for the link. And if Tim or someone could send that to her, I think that'd be great. She's trying to join us. So, you know, we're under an incredible amount of pressure these days. Our students are, our parents, our teachers, our staff, our senior leadership, our community, and I think our board is as well. And in many cases, the strain is beginning to show. And that could be the case with our board. I think it probably is the case. That's one of the reasons that I want to nominate Nancy Garrett as our board chair. I believe she has the skills, the knowledge, and the heart to get us through this very difficult time. So with every fiber, I nominate Ms. Garrett as our chair. I think we need her.
Thank you, Mr. Wimberly. Any other nominations? If there are no other nominations, we will close nominations. Nominations are therefore closed. With that, it is now time to vote. A vote of yes is a vote in favor of Ms. Garrett as board chair. Vote no, of course, is not in favor. So if you would, Ms. Glenn, please do roll call.
Andrew Woodrum,
Yes.
Dan Patch,
Yes.
Elliot Mitchell,
Yes.
Brad Fishkin,
Yes.
Jenna Priya,
Yes.
Dave Albert,
Yes.
Sheila Cleveland,
Yes.
Rick Wimberly,
Yes.
Eric Welch,
Yes.
Casey Hall,
Yes.
Nancy Garrett.
Yes.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
With that, I would like to welcome Nancy Garrett as our board chair for this 2020-21 year.
Here, here.
Mr. Golden. Excuse me. Of course, yeah. I think that you said it would be appropriate for me to make a few comments.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm here tonight with something from my dad's classroom at Franklin High School. I wanted to bring this because, thank you, Mr. Welch. Because as a person whose family has 3 generations of investment in this district, it would not be my choice to be the school board chair during the middle of a pandemic. But like a poster I had in my room at college says, there may be better times, but the time we have is now. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I hope my goal, what I see as my goals for this year, and wanted to share those with you. First of all, I think this is really an important time for us to listen to voices that are asking to be listened to, but also try to listen to the voices that we're not hearing from, because we are in such a unique situation this year. It's paramount on us to listen to our community and to our stakeholders. And like Stephen Covey said, Dan, I think you'll remember from the Saturn days where we took all those Stephen Covey classes, listen to understand rather than listen to respond or to be understood. There are a lot of people that want to talk to us right now, and the best way to start that conversation is just to listen. Second, I think that our teamwork is critical right now. We've got to work hard and work together to support all of our stakeholders and to provide the governing feedback that is needed. We all know that our authority is only in this room, and our varied and informed thoughts that we discuss here are so much greater than the individual opinion. We have been doing, important work, spending a lot of time at these meetings, trying to figure out things together. And I think that's very important to do in the spirit of fairness with each other and directness with each other, with the goal of serving Williamson County schools. And then finally, I want to mention a recent graduate within the last 5 or 6 years from Williamson County Schools, Tony Kemp, who's a Major League Baseball player and who is a finalist for the Roberto Clemente Award, which is a humanitarian award for Major League Baseball players. I read an article about him when he left the Houston Astros, and this salty reporter said, Tony Kemp has made the most positive impact on a team culture that I have ever seen in my many, many years of being a sports writer. And so that is what I want to pledge to you tonight. I want to be like Tony Kemp. and be as positive as possible. Now, being positive doesn't mean you're a yes person or you're a rubber stamp. What it means, according to John Gordon, who is someone wrote The Energy Bus, and a terrific book, it doesn't mean you ignore the reality of the situation, but it means you have the optimism, belief, and faith to overcome the situation. And we need that right now. We can have that. We can be that type of board. Being positive also allows us to focus more on solutions rather than the problem. So that's my commitment to you. I want to, when this year is done, I hope that people will say that person did make a positive impact on our culture. So if you find me not doing that, if you find me not being a good team player, if you find me not listening, please, call me on it, tell me about it. That's all I have to say. Thank you all for your confidence in me. I appreciate it. And moving on, the next item on the agenda is the election of the school board vice chairman. This worked just the same way. Do we have a motion? Sorry, I see two. First of all, I saw Brad.
Madam Chair, congratulations, and I would like to nominate Casey Hall to be the vice chair.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, if not, the floor is closed. We will proceed with the vote.
Angela Durham,
Yes.
Dan Cash,
Yes.
Elliot Mitchell,
Yes.
Brad Fisher,
Yes.
Jennifer Aquino. Yes. Jay Galbraith,
Yes.
Sheila Cleveland,
Yes.
Rick Wimberly,
Yes.
Eric Welch,
Yes.
Casey Hall,
Yes.
Nancy Garrett.
Yes,
Madam Chair, your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
thank you. Mr. Hall, do you have any words?
Thank you very much. I'll start by saying that this current situation brings together a lot of frustration in the community and among parents and families and the board itself. And I think that when we share that, it's for the same goal. We are all looking out for the kids, the students, and those families, and we all want to serve them as best we can. And how that happens, there may be different approaches and different priorities, but that's really what we need to have a laser focus on now, and to stay committed to that goal going forward. And I feel that I think that you just validated the unanimous vote for chair with your comments, Nancy. So well stated, and we're really going to do well by your leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. And if you come and get the congratulatory timer for the public comment. We'll next move on to items of particular public interest. This is our public comment portion of the meeting. And all commenters, we have 6 speakers tonight. Each speaker has up to 3 minutes. Mr. Hall will be doing the timing. Speakers state their name and address as they give their name and affiliation as they give their comment. Just so you know, if you're speaking in public comment, sometimes people expect that the board will respond, but the board does not respond to public comment. The board listens to public comment. Our first speaker is Viv Curtis.
We need to square the map here.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Bill Curtis, address 7517 Union Valley Road in Fairview, Tennessee. Here tonight, I have 3 students in Williamson County. Schools, 2 were quarantined, 2 at the high school, 1 at the middle school, not been quarantined today. I've sent multiple emails to the school board and to the school and to the health department. The school has responded, the school board has responded, and the health department has not responded to any. I've listened in on the most recent working session last Thursday for the school board, and I have a few comments and suggestions that I'd like to make. First, the school board has been responsive to me and also to our community and appears to be working towards a resolution to create equality for all. So I want to commend you guys, ladies and gentlemen. There are gaps in the current health department protocols for testing and tracing that create inequality of education for all students. The school board, by staying involved in this process, has domain and a responsibility there. They certainly have domain for the equality of education for all students. In my opinion, if the school board continues to follow the health department protocols, they are then complicit in inequalities against students. So first suggestion, the school board should completely remove itself from the medical process that the health department is conducting. And I understand you guys have taken steps, but I don't think you've gone far enough. Aggregating information on the students and providing it to the health department muddies the waters and shows that the school board is still involved in the process. And by being still involved in the process, then that makes them complicit in the school board's decision. There's no other entity that does this, and it's out of character. At my work, they don't provide a seating chart. They don't provide information on any of the employees. The contact tracing works, then it works. If it doesn't, then we've got bigger issues. Second suggestion is, if the school board is going to abide by health department protocols for quarantine and closures, there must be a conditional, it must be conditional on a confirmed second positive test, a PCR molecular test done by a second entity. It should not be okay to abide by health department determination to shut our school down because they were scared or could not confirm the originating case. To me, when I heard that, that immediately signaled that these were most likely false positives and potentially worse than that. 36 schools in Williamson County, 39 cases, 28 of them at Fairview High School. It seems that there would have been some additional testing and investigation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Marty Latito. I apologize if I got your last name wrong.
Thank you. My name is Marty Latito. I'm a founder of Ignite Health Foundation, a nonprofit 501c3 headquartered in Franklin, Tennessee. Our mission is to serve underserved communities with free health screenings, and it was founded last year. I'm a concerned parent. I have 2 children in Williamson County schools, and I want to make 3 points. The first point is to acknowledge how difficult this is for everyone. This is difficult for our students. This is difficult for our teachers, our administration, and our communities. We've never been in this situation before, and it is very difficult. There is no one person that has all the solutions, but I do believe collaboration in this amazing healthcare city, which is Nashville, Tennessee, needs to happen more. We have some of the most brilliant healthcare minds in Williamson County, and I would urge to have more of the private collaboration with our public partners. Instead of people sitting on the sidelines, this is our kids that we're talking about. And there's a lot of people way smarter than me that have offered up some amazing ideas. I think there needs to be more collaboration on that. The second point I want to make is I would like to make the school board more aware of the effectiveness of antibody tests. I'm very concerned that we have not made optional antibody tests to our students. We have been in communication with the Department of Health on this. We have multiple labs that we know that have communicated on offering optional antibody testing. Most medical professionals will agree that antibody testing can help determine some type of level of immunity, which particularly with students and kids that are playing athletics, we believe that's important to make the school board and our county more aware of antibody tests, as well as the new saliva PCR tests. These are not nasal swab tests. These are saliva-based PCR. It's the new Yale protocol that the NBA funded. These tests are available, and we have reached out to the Department of Health to help. The third point I'll make is this. It's an old saying, and I would say this to all people in leadership or people that have students or people that care. What did you know? When did you know it? And what did you do about it? That's a question I ask myself every day. So I would ask all of us in humility those questions. What did we know? And what did we do about it? And when did we know that? Because these are very difficult times, and I truly believe collaboration is the answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is, I believe it's Luke Pape.
Hello, school board members and Director Golden. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Luke Payne, and I'm a senior at Fairview High School. I wanted to share my comments on the closure of Fairview High School and the extracurricular activities and how this affects student athletes. So I'm an AP capstone student at Fairview High School, and I've taken all AP and honor classes. And I've got near perfect grades. I'm running for valedictorian, Sweden Victorian, and my number one priority right now is school. As a senior, school is very important. I'm looking to get scholarship money, I'm looking to get into these great academic schools as well as play football. So, this pandemic has affected me greatly, and so has the decision to close Fairview High School and stop extracurricular activity. My family and I discussed doing online learning, but that was not for me as I learned that in the classroom setting. It also did not provide the classes I needed. Some of those classes I need to graduate, I need to, get into these schools I want to get into. It's, the classroom setting it's something you need to have. There's no collaboration with students online. There is no, teachers can't check up on you. They can't look at you and say, hey, look, you need to pay attention. You need to come see me during period focus and come fix your grades. We don't have that opportunity. Over 12 years, the teachers and students both have been conditioned to learn in the classroom setting rather than online. And with this, being on Zoom and sitting in front of a computer all day just doesn't fit either one of our needs. It forces us out of our comfort zone. It forces us to surrender our education and forces us to not perform up to the Williamson County standard. And, in remote learning, we have zero opportunity to interact with our classmates, play sports, interact with our friends. We are losing the entire social aspect of school. And why does this matter to me personally? As a student athlete, like I mentioned before, I'm looking at some of the top 20 schools in the nation. And the opportunity to play sports at these schools is, pushing me to do better in school. It's pushing me to become a better athlete, pushing me to become a better man. And without being in school and on the field personally, I cannot feel comfortable doing that for myself. Schools are recruiting me as an athlete, a person, and a future alum to help the future generations behind me. And if I am being cheated out of education, out of sports, out of everything that comes with the in-person learning experience, I feel like I cannot do a good job at leading the future generation. And I'm competing against some of these people from all over the world. They are, just as good as me academically, just as good as me athletically. And they are probably in school. They are getting that experience while I am not. So that is hindering my ability to get into these schools and do what I want to do for the next 4 years. Williamson County is also known as being the leader in the state for education. Most counties look up to us as the best practice policymakers and being thought leaders. Let's take the same role and lead Tennessee in pushing through this issue. Please put us back in school. Please put us back on the football field, another sport field, or whatever you want to call it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tom Payton. And Tom, if you'll please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Tom Payton. And I live at 2121 Ravens Court Drive, Thompson Station. I have 2 kids that graduated from Franklin High School. I'm here to talk really to Jason Golden, Lee Webb, and Shane Mantel and their committee. Let's start with the Franklin High School mascot. You managed to change the name, and you never asked the opinion of the Franklin High School area constituents. And I know you put up an email on the local news stations, but and asking for a response. Anyone could have seen the email and sent their opinion in. Could have been someone from out of town. You never sent out emails to the parents, students, and alumni of Franklin High or the feeder schools. And why? Well, when you want to be politically correct, then you don't ask for input. And you did it in record time. You did it in less than 5 weeks. It was really amazing how you guys must set some sort of record. Did you ever discuss getting rid of the Confederate general and just keeping the name Rebels? Because Ole Miss did that. You've done it very well. Now, this is the real kicker. You all were absolutely politically correct, and you never told anyone how much it was going to cost. We still don't know. And no one knows who's going to pay for it. We still don't know. I'm a taxpayer. I want to know this information. I mean, you're talking about new scoreboard, football field, the gym, uniforms, the letterhead, so many different things. And no one knew before they made a decision, which they didn't really make a decision because you never contacted them. But if you had them, I think they would have said, wow, it's going to cost $200,000. I don't think I'm in favor for that. I don't know where we're getting this extra money, guys. So it's just crazy. And the school board, this school board never had a vote on the name change. One would think that the school board would be voting on major changes. Well, apparently they don't. This school board has no power or vote on major changes. And if I was on the board and I was the president of HOA at Fieldstone Farms, I'd be mad as hell. I would start making policies to give me a vote on major changes. This school board is talented and smart. I know some people on this, and you have the power to make some new policy. And I hope you do, because I want your input. I don't know what you all do. I think about the school curriculum. And does this board vote on changes like this Wit and Wisdom program? I mean, I don't know. It's just being so politically correct. There are a lot of liberal views in that, and it's scary. It really is to me. And I can't believe that no one knows how much this change is going to cost, where the money's coming from, or who's going to pay for it. So anyway, I hope you all are happy. You've all got your way. You pushed it all the way through, and God knows what other changes you're going to make. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr.
Our next speaker is Cornelia Gibson. Ms. Gibson, if you'll please state your name and your address. Thank you.
Sure. My name is Cornelia Gibson. I am a resident of Spring Hill, Tennessee, and a parent of a child in Williamson County Schools. Because recent calls and emails continue to go unanswered and ignored by the administration, I'm here to ask you, school board members, to do more than issue statements, apologize, and continue being reactive to the students, the parents, and the faculty of Williamson County schools impacted by racism and discrimination. In this do more charge, I have already answered your discharge by drafting an email of a recommendation that's sitting in all of your emails right now. But I'll give you highlights right now. First, we would like you to use your special committee ability to create a diversity, equity, and inclusion advisory board. Second, we would like you to adopt and accept the creation of an anti-racism policy. Third, we would like you to adopt an equity lens statement to guide thoughts and actions around racism in Williamson County schools. The Cultural Competencies Committee has been in place with most, if not all of you, in your roles approaching 3 years without any of the requests being heard or satisfied. One of my heroes, Frederick Douglass, said, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will. So on behalf of the many parents, students, faculty, and this community, I am here to make a demand from those of you who are in power. Williamson County Mission says, we exist to provide all students with a quality education that supports their intellectual, physical, emotional, and social development. From where I stand, there is much opportunity to make this mission statement a reality. Parents should expect the school to do more when our children are not safe. Do more when our children are asking for help via dearest WCS. Do more when time after time a news is found today and an NIDDA is painted on someone's body tomorrow. This should not be a difficult ask from any of you, because people like me are dependent on people like you to do more. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our final speaker for this evening is Laura Kleeman.
Good evening. I'm Laura Clayman, president of the Williamson County Education Association. Last week, we surveyed teachers and staff about time, and I sent the results to you, along with 62 pages of comments. Thank you for taking the time to absorb that information and for the concerns you expressed at the work session. I would like to note that WCEA exists to work for the welfare of children, the advancement of education, and the improvement of instructional opportunities for all, which dovetails with our own WCS mission statement. Teachers become educators because we love children and we love helping them grow and learn. But we've reached a point that our tanks are nearing empty and we're running on fumes. Our district leaders have heard our concerns and are looking for ways to create time for us to recharge, time to become skilled in our new platforms, time to develop quality educational experiences for students, time to respond to individual learners and reinforce standards. I am asking you as a board to support whatever solutions our district can provide. The asynchronous Tuesday for secondary is a start, but we cannot forget our youngest learners and their teachers. They too deserve an opportunity to refill the tank. How we got to this point is water under the bridge. There is no pandemic playbook. There is no precedent. In my role, I have the opportunity to hear all levels of employees, and wow. All I can say is every single person has been working nonstop. Systems and procedures that should have taken years to develop became de facto standards overnight. I applaud our leaders for the adjustments they have made as we blaze a new path, but I also want to remind everyone that we must also monitor the well-being of our staff. I know everyone here, especially our teachers, want what is best for our students, but you cannot pour from an empty vessel. I also wanted to address a public misconception that all teachers who are concerned about exposure to COVID can choose to teach online. The reality is this: many staff who requested accommodations did not receive an online position. As a result, if an educator fears for their health or that of their family, their only options are to request FMLA, roll the dice and hope they don't bring COVID home, or leave the profession they love and spent years perfecting. The third option worries me the most. We had a teacher shortage before the pandemic started. We are halfway through the first quarter and we still have numerous vacancies posted. We cannot afford to lose more highly trained professionals. We must protect our teachers and provide time for them to be effective.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment for tonight. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Is there a motion to approve? Motion from Mr. Welch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Mitchell. Is there any discussion? If not, let's move to a vote.
Angela Durham,
Yes.
Dan Cash,
Yes.
Elliot Mitchell,
Yes.
Brad Fiskus,
Yes.
Jennifer Apria,
Yes.
Jay Galbraith,
Yes.
Sheila Cleveland,
Yes.
Rick Wimberly,
Yes.
Eric Welch,
Yes.
Casey Hall,
Yes.
Nancy Garrett.
Yes.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Ms. Glenn. The next item is the approval of the consent agenda. We have a motion for approval. Motion from Mr. Fiskus. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Welch. Is there any discussion? If not, I think we can go ahead and vote.
Angela Durham,
Yes.
Dan Cash,
Yes.
Elliot Mitchell,
Yes.
Brad Fiskus,
Yes.
Jennifer Apria,
Yes.
Jay Galbraith,
Yes.
Sheila Cleveland,
Yes.
Rick Wimberly,
Yes.
Eric Welch,
Yes.
Casey Hall,
Yes.
Nancy Garrett.
Yes.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
Okay, board, and with that approval, you've approved the following items, and it's a long list. The approval of the August 17th, 2020 school board meeting minutes, the approval of the September 9th, 2020 special call meeting minutes, approval of the following board policies on second reading, maintaining test security, that's 4.701, semester and final exams, policy 47001, middle school exams, policy 47002, recommendations and file transfers, Policy 5203, Family and Medical Leave 5305, Title IX 63041, Child Abuse Reporting 6409. You've also approved the approval of field trip fee requests. You've approved the E-Plan application for FY 2021 LEA reopening and programmatic supports grant and the CARES Act. You've approved the collaborative conferencing team, the calendar committee membership, and you've approved the City of Franklin sewer easement. And now we'll move to communications to the board. And first we'll have the superintendent's report from Director Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank you as board members for coming and doing what we know is volunteer work in this pandemic environment. To your point, Madam Chair, that this is where we are, and I appreciate you all working during this time. I do believe that we're here for a reason, that we are the best people to work through this pandemic, and so I very much appreciate your commitment. You know, the 6 folks who spoke at public comment actually addressed the 4 items that I'm going to give you a brief update on. We spent about 5 hours or so at our work session. I'm not going to spend that kind of detail this time. Just want to give you some quick updates. Number 1, I want to praise our teachers and our staff, our teachers' assistants, our bus drivers. I can't name everyone that I want to thank. I do know that Ms. Clayman mentioned that everyone is working hard, and that's true, and I know you are too. But I want to specifically thank those who are committed to serving children. We all are committed to serving children, and every decision we make, that's our focus, and it's a lot of work. It's the hardest work any of us have ever done in our professional lives, and I want to thank everyone for that. Second thing I wanted to give you was an update. We talked a lot about tomorrow, September 22nd, as our pilot asynchronous day, where our secondary schools and the Hillsborough Elementary School students will actually also be piloting that. Our staff is going to talk Wednesday morning about how it went. As you heard from Ms. Clayman and from me last week, our goal is to see what value we can give with given this time. I want to emphasize to you that this is an educational day. This is an instructional day, but it is asynchronous. So we're going to see how that goes. As I mentioned to you, we're really looking at everyone, how this affects children, how it affects students, how it affects parents, how it affects our teachers, how it affects our staff. We really want to get a good grasp to see if this will work. We do know that some of our peers in other locations have done this unusual year. And again, I'm very curious to see how it goes. I will update you on that. Next thing I wanted to mention was the health department and their work. As I told you last week, we've been having many conversations with them, brainstorming over how to facilitate them doing their work with the contact tracing. I mentioned to you that they had said that they were committed and had a plan in place with EMA, Emergency Management for Williamson County, to get the messages out directly from them based on their decisions related to quarantine. We actually sent one more for them today because they were still putting that process in place. Happened to be seven students that Carol Birdsong sent. But we believe, based on what they said, either today, either tomorrow or Wednesday, they will have that up and running. As I understand it, they were testing it today with EMA to make sure they could get those messages out. We really look forward to that. And the final thing I wanted to mention is something that I know we've been talking about these last few months, race relations in our community. You may recall that a few months ago, I mentioned that in any discussion, we might have mistakes may be made in the words we use, but we nevertheless still need to talk about it. And so I want to emphasize to you that we are going to continue to do that. I mentioned to you last week about a particular event with some students that made social media. I want to let you know that we are working and will continue to work on growing our wisdom and our capacity to appropriately teach and grow our students in our diverse environment. And we've done some items. I've spent a lot of time listening, spent some time listening to students, to alumni, to parents, to teachers, and to administrators. And we've made it a point of emphasis this year, as the school year started, to listen to young alumni about their experiences in Williamson County schools, for good or for worse, and to make it a point to all our teachers that these policies that you all put in place, the anti-discrimination policies, would be followed each and every time. At the same time, we are working on reviewing those policies to see how to strengthen those. And we are looking at the possibility and the probability of developing a coherent plan so that we can grow as a district with professional development and professional health. Thought it was worth that quick update for you on all four of those. We will continue to talk about these things. And I think from what you heard from those 6 who spoke to us tonight, we really covered the gamut. What's on the community's mind is what's on our mind as well. So, Madam Chair, it's very short compared to normal, but that is my report.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Moving on to the board chair's report. This will also be short.
Madam Chair.
Oh, yes,
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Mr. Golden?
sure.
So Jason, with regard to the asynchronous, I mean, we talked a little bit about this on Thursday
Yes,
night,
sir.
but I guess I'm going to go back to this and see if you have an answer. But I guess I'm trying to find where the definition of asynchronous is in our policy, because it seems to me that we, by allowing us to have this day tomorrow without the board weighing in, I guess if we do this, I'm going to ask our policy committee chairman, which I presume will be Mr. Hall, but I guess that's not that's not a foregone conclusion, I guess. But I believe we're setting aside policy in doing this, because I believe we need to look at the calendar, the policy related to the calendar and the policy related to the definition of a school day, because I don't believe we're creating a new kind of day in this. So we've had professional development, and that's on the calendar defined, and we have holidays, and those are on the calendar. But what we don't have is a professional day that's also a full instructional day. So that's not defined on our calendar.
Madam
And so,
Chairwoman, may I ask a point of order?
Sure.
Mr. Galbraith said he would like to ask a question. I really am waiting for the question.
I'll ask should I ask our attorney, Mr. Golden?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll ask our attorney to weigh in on that. You're on mute.
He did state that he wanted to ask a question for Mr. Golden. So yes, he does need to state his question.
okay, I think I'm in the process. I'm explaining my question, if that's okay.
I think you need to state your question, and if Mr. Golden doesn't understand it, he can then ask for an explanation.
It's a first for me.
If I may, Mr. Galbraith.
You can respond. That's fine. I think it's completely ridiculous.
Thank you. I understand what your question is, I think. And of course, you have, as I understand it, your question that we discussed last Thursday at our work session is the authority for those kinds of decisions. And I think it's perfectly appropriate for the board to discuss the possibility of a policy addressing this. Like I said, it is outside the box. And I certainly want to respect each of the board members and you as a body in those decisions. What we're trying to do is to address this pandemic, to use a term that I know Ms. Garrett used, as nimbly as we can. And I mentioned to you at our special called meeting the week before that there was a real possibility that we were going to name that as an asynchronous day. And so from an authority standpoint, I've concluded that I have that authority to do that. Likewise, I have the authority to close the school with those stockpile days that the board has put in there, but I haven't suggested that we do that. But with all that in mind, I'm more concerned about the board working with me as a team. And if it's the board's will after this pilot, I'll certainly respect the board voting on that. This is new. You're 100% right. This is new. This is outside the box. Never before, to my knowledge, have we contemplated the possibility of analyzing an asynchronous day for students in this context. I am trying to be creative.
So I guess my question would be, and my request would be that before we, if we agree to accept this this day, that we agree. I mean, our typical process for setting aside policy, which I believe this is setting aside policy, but our typical response would be that we would take it before the policy committee and review. And I believe the policies that are reflective, and I was looking up, I haven't found the policy for the definition of a school day but certainly the calendar and the definition of a school day, which is what I believe we're violating here.
Mr. Galbraith,
Yes,
if I may clarify, and I apologize, I didn't see your hand raised.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
There's Mr.
No,
Welch's
it's okay.
microphone is right there.
That's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Welch. So if I'm correct, you brought this up at the work session as well. And we did discuss at that point that we could look into this and we could have the attorney look into this and see if it was indeed a policy violation. And so we can continue to do that. And I think we discussed at that time that even if we did that, that wouldn't preclude the day tomorrow, that we would go ahead with the pilot. Is that clear from everyone's understanding? Is that clear from your understanding, Mr. Galbraith?
I mean, I agree I agree that Jason says that he believes he has the authority, and I don't think that there was a consensus to challenge that authority necessarily for tomorrow. My desire is that we at least weigh in as a board to see if there's a policy that needs to be made before we take this, before we go any further and establish a calendar option that's going to set forth more of these days. And
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah. That's helpful. Thank you so much.
And Ms. Garrett, this
Yes.
is Ms. Brooks. In reviewing the work session, yes, your memory is correct. And I have noted that we will place either for discussion, one, if not two policies after I have reviewed them at the October policy meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the question and thank you for the clarification. Are there any other questions at this point on the superintendent's report? Just want to make sure I see your hand. If not, I'll proceed with the board chair's report, and it will be short, as I said. First of all, I guess Jason and I will be able to proceed with some preliminary planning for the retreat. Prior to this meeting, we did identify a couple of weekends, Saturdays that we're looking at. So Lydia will send out to everyone this week and ask you to vote by preference. Would ask that everyone, if possible, try to clear your calendars for that, because we obviously have some things we want to talk about and talk about in a retreat developmental type setting. So expect that soon.
Is there a date? Did you give a date?
She's going to give them in the emails. She's going to ask everybody to let her know what they think is the best date for them. The second item is reminder to sign up for your TSBA training. We discussed that, but there's some late breaking news about TSBA. Just today, they canceled the statewide leadership training and the annual convention in November that we generally attend. So FYI to all board members. And I think that is it for my report this meeting. So we'll move on to new business. The first item is the 2020-2021 school board budget, general purpose school fund budget, and there are two amendments that we need to vote on. The first is the governor's give grant. Director Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we discussed at the work session, this is the governor's give grant that was awarded jointly to us and Columbia State. Actually, we were the ones who received the funds for the mobile cybersecurity unit for class. Wanted to give you guys a quick update on that. We are in that process. We've done a little bit of work in the prior budget year and doing work in this budget year as well. So Leslie Holman is asking to move the funds to this current budget year. We recommend approval.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Haw, second. Mr. Cash, any discussion? If not, let's vote.
Angela Durham,
Yes.
Dan Cash, Elliot Mitchell,
Yes.
Brad Fiskus,
Yes.
Jennifer Apria,
Yes.
Jay Galbraith,
Yes.
Sheila Cleveland,
Yes.
Burley,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Nancy Garrett.
Yes.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
Lydia, I'm also a yes.
I am so sorry. Eric Welch.
Still a yes.
The next item is United Way. Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an item on the finance agenda to accept a grant from the United Way. I want to specifically thank the United Way for this after-school tutoring funds of $36,000. This is the 9th year they've given us those funds. And I want to remind everyone that within board policy, United Way is actually specifically mentioned as a recipient of fundraisers for the district. So thanks again to them, and I do recommend that you approve acceptance of these funds.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Welch, a second. Mr. Mitchell? Any discussion? If not, we can move to a vote.
Angela Durham,
Yes.
Dan Cash,
Yes.
Elliot Mitchell,
Yes.
Brad Fiskus,
Yes.
Jennifer Apria,
Yes.
Jay Galbraith,
Yes.
Sheila Cleveland,
Yes.
Rick Wimberly,
Yes.
Eric Welch,
Yes.
Casey Hall,
Yes.
Nancy Garrett.
Yes.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, everyone. The next item is under the Education Capital Projects Fund Budget, an intercategory adjustment, intercategory high school projects. Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The county is going to bond market soon on some of the projects that they approved back in March. If you all may recall, that was the window of time where they looked at some really low interest rates. So they are now going to the bond market. As part of that, they asked if we had any available funds from our capital projects to use towards our capital projects. Ms. Holman, in consultation with the county's finance director, has proposed this $3 million move from contingency to those 3 items of Page High School construction, the Summit Edition, and the Ravenwood Edition. Recommend approval.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Welch, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Fiskus, any discussion? Yes, Mr. Mitchell.
Could we get kind of an explanation on what we're doing? If the county is going to market to sell bonds, what's the relationship of us spending money that is in our account to the county seeking additional bonding?
I'll let Ms. Holman give some detail, but I'll give you the gist of it. That is, I'm using my terminology, leftover money from other projects and contingency for some of our other high school and middle school capital projects. So it was based on Ms. Holman's review of those accounts. So Ms. Holman?
And the money, when they issue the bond money for us, we have to use it within a certain period of time. So looking at this money and the amount that we have in general funds, I felt like we needed to give back about $3 million of this money towards this project, because I can't let it accumulate forever. And it's not in general purpose school, it's in the capital project. It can
Capital
only
fund.
be used for capital projects.
So are you, thank you, Ms. Holman, are you stating then that this 3 million is effectively reducing the amount of money that the county is having to bond for those projects? Is that what we're doing?
Exactly. And at the commission meeting last Monday, they've also used a lot of education impact fee money to fund these projects also. So they won't be going to the bond market for the total amount that they've approved for us to have. They're going to use 3 different funding mechanisms. My money, our money left in the capital projects funds. They're going to use education impact fee funds, and they're also going to issue the rest through the bond market.
And do we know what the total amount of bonding they're looking to fund and how much of that is for the school district?
Ms. Holman,
I do, but I don't have that in front of me tonight because at the county commission meeting, it was, I really don't, I don't want to say the numbers without having it in my hand, but she did have a spreadsheet on that at the county commission meeting about the amount that was relative to the whole issue and the amount that was particularly for the school department.
If I may, Mr. Mitchell, we'll make sure we email that to you. I know it's, for a vote tonight, that information may be later than the vote. I will tell you that the county commission is working on, of course, a number of our projects, plus some county projects. They spent some time talking about juvenile justice and judiciary that they've been working on for a couple of years to improve the sheriff's department, the juvenile court, and the court. So they do have multiple projects in addition to ours.
So one last question, if I might, Chairwoman. Do we foresee our capital needs changing given the fact that our growth this year is not consistent to what it has been in the past?
That's a great question. I think that's a possibility from a timing perspective. I actually had a discussion last week with Allison Nunley, who does our projections. We have a meeting scheduled. As you all know, we have gone down in student numbers this year compared to last year. One of the items we're going to project is this a 1-year blip? Is this a 2-year blip? Where we go? So from a timing perspective, when we come to you in November with our 5-year capital plan, the dates I anticipate may be a little bit different. We have a little bit of difference every year based on our projections, and we're going to make that same evaluation this coming year.
Thank you.
And Jason, I just emailed that to the board members if they've got access to email, so.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote.
And Angela Durham,
Yes.
Dan Cash,
Yes.
Elliot Mitchell,
Yes.
Brad Fiskus,
Yes.
Jennifer Apria,
Yes.
Jay Galbraith,
Yes.
Sheila Cleveland,
Yes.
Rick Wimberly,
Yes.
Eric Welch,
Yes.
Casey Hall,
Yes.
Nancy Garrett.
Yes.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Ms. Glenn. The next item is approval of lease purchase agreements for Chromebook computers. Director Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we discussed at the work session, our technology department, with Tim McNeese and Mark Samuels, who of course is our assistant superintendent for operations, had spent a lot of time talking about how they project the need for Chromebooks to the future. As you may recall, we bought some new Chromebooks and we added them to Chromebooks that we were squeezing an extra year of life out of so that we could meet the COVID-19 pandemic and our decision to make sure that every student in grades K through 12 actually had a Chromebook. Our proposal is, because this window of time is open, to move some of our technology funds to this higher priority. That's what we're asking of you. This request will actually go to the commission because it is officially a lease purchase agreement with a commitment for annual payments, although the interest is actually structured at 0. We shared some additional detail about our concerns about access to some of these devices. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them, but I recommend approval.
Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Mitchell, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Welch, any discussion? Yes, Mr. Hall.
I just want to take the opportunity to thank the IT folks for the forward thinking that they've used throughout this pandemic, going back to earlier this year, when I know that the supply chains for a lot of this equipment were really challenged, and I think we were in a better position than some other districts just because of the proactive response that we had to make sure that we had the equipment we need. And this is further evidence that we prioritized appropriately, and I know it's been a really tough lift for everybody in the department.
Thank you, Mr. Haw. And I've heard from some of my peers who still haven't received their orders. And so often we hear about the challenges that we're facing. And it's rare that we talk about the things that we did well. But thank you so much for mentioning that.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll proceed to the vote.
Angela Durham,
Yes.
Dan Cash,
Yes.
Elliot Mitchell,
Yes.
Brad Fixon,
Yes.
Jennifer Apria, Jay Galbraith,
Yes.
Sheila Cleveland,
Yes.
Rick Wimberly,
Yes.
Eric Welch,
Yes.
Casey Hall,
Yes.
Nancy Garrett.
Yes.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. The next item is board policies for first reading. Policy 4.600 of report cards and grading systems. Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we discussed, this is board policy first reading for report cards and grading systems. And this includes some small modifications to some of the detail regarding valedictorian and salutatorian. Since this is a public meeting, typically with more people watching than at a policy committee meeting, I want to briefly mention that after much discussion, the proposal is in heart to keep the valedictorian and salutatorian standards the same. I'm going to mention 2 big reasons, although they're not the only reason. Number one, it allows students who are taking some classes that actually have a 4.0 as opposed to a 5.0 that still have the opportunity to receive one of these awards. And also, it opens the door, as we've learned, for the potential for more scholarships. So recommend approval at first reading. I would invite you to come to the next policy committee meeting if you'd like to discuss it in more detail.
Motion to approve.
Approve.
Mr. Cash, second.
Second.
Mr. Mitchell, discussion? No discussion. Let's proceed to a vote.
Angela
Oh,
Durham.
I'm sorry. I probably need to get my left eye.
Click on the draw then, Ms. Chairwoman.
Slowly.
Oh, okay. Mr. Welch.
Thank you. I'm going to support this because it's first reading. I know it's going to come back. This is not a final vote, but perhaps Jason, you can address this a little bit. I'm looking at the grade scale, and I'm sort of thinking back kind of historically. One of the things that had raised a flag a few years ago, well, I guess it still does, is grade inflation, and sort of that bell curve that we have in our district is not a bell curve. And I think there was some concern about almost being too lenient on the grading scale. And I don't think that's
That's not quite the way I should put it, but hopefully it kind of gets the point of where I'm going with this. When I look at this, it's a D is a 70 to 71. That's a razor thin margin there, whereas a C is 72 to 80. So we've got an 18-point scale for a C grade and a 2-point scale for a D grade. And it just, it doesn't feel right.
We haven't discussed it in the most recent meeting, that particular grade scale, but maybe just briefly, really in the context of plus or minus. I will tell you over the years, I've participated in many discussions about the grade scale, and D has over the years fluctuated a little bit. It's been a number of years since the board has discussed it. One of the keys for us is really based on my recollection of so much of that discussion, the failure is so much more significant than the D range, right? Anything below that. I will tell you over the years, we've also increased our focus on students learning the standard and doing what we can not to fail students or not to give them a D, but to teach them the standards so that they're prepared when they graduate. And so from an administrative perspective, we believe that the value of a C is appropriate. But again, you're right, the D window is very narrow. I will invite Dr. Webb to address it. She, of course, has been in a high school with that D scale. There's an element of it that's a warning. And I will say we don't think about it much in the terms of grade inflation when it comes to our students who are going on to college. Their performance and how well they do on the standards is really the key. So Dr. Webb, if you would.
Mm-hmm. Now, and I'll echo only what you've said already, which is that there isn't a perception of great inflation within the buildings currently, and that our focus is on mastery of the standards. And so I do not have a concern, nor have I heard one in the last 3 years as I've been in central office in regards to a concern about inflation, specifically as it pertains to the D.
With that being said, it's going on for second reading of policy.
Are there any other questions? Not, let's vote.
Angela Durham,
Yes.
Dan Cash,
Yes.
Elliot Mitchell,
Yes.
Brad Fiskus,
Yes.
Jennifer Apria,
Yes.
Jay Galbraith,
Yes.
Sheila Cleveland,
Yes.
Rick Wimberly,
Yes.
Eric Welch,
Yes.
Casey Hall,
Yes.
Nancy Garrett.
Yes.
The vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Ms. Glenn. And our final agenda item for tonight, approval of board parameters for the school calendar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you all know, we discussed this at our work session, and some possibilities were raised by board members. I want to mention to you also that you approved the board committee, the calendar committee, in the consent agenda. We are actually scheduled to have you vote on the calendar in January at the January board meeting. After the discussion, my recommendation is that you follow the process you have done the past few years in asking the calendar committee to make their best recommendation, but give input and ask them to consider some items that some of you have raised. So with that, I recommend a motion to approve no parameters for this coming year.
Mr. Welch?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend to the calendar committee to put forth the best calendar possible without parameters,
Thank you,
without
sir.
preset parameters.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cash, second. Discussion? Yes, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. So I don't know that I'm on board with no parameters at this point. I will make my recommendations and then see how my peers feel about going that route or not. So I think that given the fact that we're talking about, we have a crisis or the beginning of a crisis, if we're not in one already, on teacher fatigue, instructor fatigue, administrator fatigue. I think we want to look for suggestions on how to maximize the opportunities for asynchronous learning days in the calendar. I think we want to look at potentially increasing the fall break potentially as another way to help recharge, give instructors and students an opportunity to recharge. I think that we've got, I would look for ways to incorporate the usage of the additional snow days and whether we have the discussion of snow days even being necessary anymore with our ability to be remote in our teaching, So maybe use those as opportunities for our asynchronous or breaks as necessary. So those are the type of concerns I have as we enter into the calendar.
Is there any other discussion? Mr. Welch?
I agree with everything that Mr. Mitchell is saying. Those are all things that the calendar committee should definitely consider. But I would counter and ask him to consider with that the makeup of the calendar committee is such that there are representatives from all stakeholders, including parents through our PTOs, teachers through their WCA leadership, our administrative, and all of those considerations, I trust will be considered, as well as many others that we ourselves have not thought of. So I hear what you're saying, and I do agree with you that all those things should be considered, but I would make the argument by giving flexibility, we don't lock them in to saying these are the only things to consider or prioritize, that as other things pop up, they can look how it fits into the entire mix. We're allowing that to happen in the most efficient way by a little bit more in-depth discussion by those experts who kind of bring that expertise to the table. And then, of course, we as the decision-making body still have the authority to yay or nay or make changes at the end of that process.
Mr. Galbraith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Mr. Mitchell. I guess they're, and I don't know. I mean, Jason's already said that he would take these recommendations to look, and I guess so. Technically, Mr. Mitchell, you're not suggesting necessarily parameters by which they craft a calendar, rather ideas that they consider while they're crafting the calendar, correct?
Thank you, Mr. Galbraith. My discussion point for us all is whether we give a parameter that has them address teaching and student fatigue potentially, and use that as the parameter coming in for it. Because I think what we're seeing and hearing is that if we're in the same situation next year, that this seems to be the crisis that we're fighting for our staff, is that they're working 10, 12-hour days, 6 days, 7 days a week, and they're exhausted. And so our calendar, I believe, needs to reflect that concern going into next year.
Sure.
That's kind of where I'm.
Yeah. Well, I guess I agree that regardless of whether we consider it a parameter or not tonight. I guess that's definitely a lens that I'm going to evaluate whatever calendar comes back from the committee. So I hope that they listen to this. I know we have an opportunity. I guess, Madam Chair, I think somebody said that somebody recommended that we email the calendar committee, and I'm not sure that that's necessarily appropriate. So what do you think about that? I guess given that we speak as a board through only our I guess to the calendar committee. I don't want individual. What do you think about individual board members weighing into the calendar committee what our individual preferences are?
Madam Chair, if I may speak to that.
Sure.
I have conversations with individual board members regularly, and I would invite you all to let me know. And I will encourage that committee to consider those if this motion that's on the floor passes. You all, in these particular examples, have spoken to that already. So if this particular motion passes, I'm convinced, based on my experience with the folks on this committee, it's not the exact same committee as it has been in the past. But my experience is that those are going to be items that they discuss. So I'm convinced that if it passes as is, these items will be discussed. I will also tell you that our staff, as you know, is open to discussions with you all regularly as well. My request would be that if you have anything, let us know fairly soon, and so that we can consider that if there's something that's outside the scope of that committee. I will tell you, just to make sure you grasp who we have representatives from high, middle, and elementary school, district-wide, a WCS parent, assessment coordinator, which is significant, right, if you think about where the state is, teaching, learning, and assessment, and professional development. So we have representatives who kind of look at that scope of possibilities for the calendar.
And Mr. Golden, if I may just ask for an affirmation of something that's already been said. You said that you've recorded the discussion here tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
About what Mr. Mitchell said, what Mr. Galber said, what Mr. Welch said about the calendar.
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Cash?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Mitchell brings, to light a couple of good points, especially on asynchronous days versus snow days. That would be your call on that also, wouldn't it, Jason?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that could be done if we needed to do that. Some of the other things he's talking about, more rest and kind of giving the teachers a break, spring break and stuff like that. Hopefully this pandemic's gone when this calendar goes into effect. So, we'd have to wait and see on that. But, when we start putting all these things in place in one calendar, you're kind of setting a precedent. And it's hard to revert back from that. So I just look at.
Well, I agree. Once you give it, it's hard to take away.
I just look, and I know, and what Mr. Mitchell said is very, well said. I mean, some of these things need to be done, but we got to think of all aspects like that. So I'm still, not for going into all spring break and all this stuff. I think there's other means to take care of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Wimberly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having been through the calendar discussions, I think this is my 9th time. I have the general impression that the parameters simply don't work. In the years where we've had them, I think the intent was to communicate to the board, communicate early on the board's general opinion about what the calendar should look like. But even when we did that, there was extensive debate among the board when we got the calendar back. So I don't think it worked in those cases. And when we've not had parameters, it's just my general observation that we've had extensive discussion about it anyway. So I think the question before us tonight is really, do we want parameters or not? The motion on the floor is to not have them. And I just simply think, although lots of good points are made about what the calendar could look like, I just simply don't think parameters work. And they haven't worked for us in the past. I don't think they've accomplished what they was intended of them. I will say that over the years, I think that the communications between the calendar committee and the board and the public have improved rather dramatically. And I wouldn't think that'd be different for this year. So I say, let's go forward without the parameters.
Mr. Mitchell, then Mr. Fiskus.
I'll yield to Mr. Fiskus. Since he doesn't have an opportunity.
I accessed the policy, the calendar policy on my phone. So that's what I was looking at here. So just to review, it says a regular school year shall have 200 days and scheduled as follows: a minimum of 180 student days, a minimum of 5 days of in-service education for all certificated personnel, 1 day for parent-teacher conferences, and 4 discretionary days. So in these discretionary days, technically, that number could be higher to provide the opportunity for, if we call it asynchronous or more professional development or release time, whatever we need it there, I would think. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And those discretionary days are actually specified. Those are the 4 days that are within board discretion.
Okay.
Now, again, to your point, minimum.
Minimum, yeah.
Right.
Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'm fine with moving forward. My last comment would be that we all be sensitive to the fact that when we ask people to be on a committee to make recommendations to us, they're working hard to put that together, and they vet a lot of different things. And for us to then take their recommendation and kind of slice it and dice it and change it up, to a certain extent can be viewed as insensitive or critical of what they've given us. And so that's my only thought of providing some feedback input on the front end, so they have an idea of what we're looking for and what we're likely to, Mr. Galbraith's term, the lens that we're going to be looking at it through. And therefore, they're not left with thinking, well, why did we spend all of these hours putting this together if they're just going to do it themselves? And that's kind of that's one of the reasons why I felt it was important for us to kind of give an idea of what we're looking for in a school calendar before they spend hours putting it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Is there any other discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote.
Angela Durham,
Yes.
Dan Cash,
Yes.
Elliot Mitchell,
Yes.
Brad Fiskus,
Yes.
Jennifer Apria.
Yes.
Jay Galbraith,
Yes.
Sheila Cleveland,
Yes.
Rick Wimberly,
Yes.
Eric Welch,
Yes.
Casey Hall,
Yes.
Nancy Garrett.
Yes.
Your vote is 11 yes, 0 no.
Board members, that's our final agenda item for tonight. Just a reminder that if you did not discuss anything that you wanted to discuss about the calendar during this public meeting, Jason has requested that you get in touch with him about that. Thank
Ms.
you
Garrett?
all. Yes.
Ms. Garrett, I think Jason wanted to say something about the county's donation of some computers to us.
Oh, one thing we mentioned at the work session, Madam Chair, that I didn't mention tonight, The county is actually purchasing some additional computers for us. I don't remember the exact number, a little over 4,000 with some COVID money that they received. And I know that we thanked them at our public meeting on Thursday, so I want to do that again. And I really want to add that Ms. Holman was deeply involved in that detailed discussion and gave them that priority to ensure that we could get that done. Thank you to Leslie as well.
Thank you, Ms. Holman, and thank you, Williamson County. Greatly appreciated. And with that, we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.